Starliner Media. Starliner Media presents Music Night at the Majestic with your host, Michael Boswell. Brought to you by
OutdoorTVExperts.com. Everyone is spending more time at home these days, so wouldn't it be nice to watch a game, a movie, or even better, a concert while sitting on your patio or relaxing in your pool? Visit OutdoorTVExperts.com and use the Music Night discount to receive free shipping. OutdoorTVExperts.com, OutdoorTVExperts.com.
Okay, Michael, my part is done. Whether the rest of the show is any good is entirely up to you.
All right, time once again for Music Night at the Majestic. With us tonight is Deborah Allen. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Hey, Michael, it's great to be here.
Tell you what, it's a real thrill to have you here. You've had such an interesting career, both as a singer, as a songwriter, and then also the path that your career took. You've had a chance to meet and work with some amazing people. Now, you're originally from Memphis, correct?
I was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee.
All right. So are you a Sun Records girl or a Stax, or does it depend on the mood?
You know, I'm a little bit of both. Sun Records, Stax, and Royal Studio, too. You know, all three of those studios were huge influences on my life as far as the music that came out of them. My parents had an upholstery shop on Union Avenue in Memphis, Tennessee, and Willie Mitchell from Royal Studio, at that time, he also had a regular job for a little while, delivering seat covers. So they met Willie, and that really kind of opened up our eyes to the amazing music. You know, Willie produced all those early Al Green records, and also worked with Tina Turner, Ike and Tina Turner, and all of that. And at my parents' shop, there was also a cleanup shop, and he had a lot of people there that were definite fans of WDIA, which was the black station there, you know. So I would say a cross between WHBQ, which was George Klein, my buddy George Klein, and WDIA were big influences on me musically, as well as Saturday afternoons watching the television shows that came out of Nashville that were traditional country music. So I got a very eclectic mix of influences.
And you can hear that eclectic mix in your songs. Even when, it's a straightforward country project, you could still hear that soulful and gospel influence in your vocal.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I feel like everybody is different, and God plants us where he wants us to start our humble beginnings. And mine was in Memphis. And I just have always carried a part of Memphis in my heart with me everywhere I go. So I'm always glad to hear that it shines through.
Yes, it does. Now, you were 19 when you made the move to Nashville to have a go at a music career?
Yeah, 18 or 19. It probably was 19. I don't know why for years I've said 18, but you're probably right. It probably was 19.
All right. And then from what I remember, I'd seen an interview with you many years ago. Well, not that many years ago. Baby I Lied was out. We know that wasn't that long ago.
Oh, well, it was a few years ago, I mean, when you first start out, especially as a female, it's like, sometimes we're very guarded about when we were born, our age and all that stuff. But then as time goes by, it's like you're kind of like, I'm proud of it, So Baby I Lied was a big hit at the end of 83 and part of 84. In fact, the promotion company called it the record that wouldn't go away. And I said, well, that's all right with me.
Exactly. Now, before I want to get into that because that's a whole interesting story there.
Okay.
But what I remember from the interview I'd seen is when you got to Nashville, you had taken a job as a waitress at the IHOP there on Music Row, and you had a chance meeting with somebody.
I did. Well, I started out across the street at Lum's. I actually made more money at Lum's. I made $1 an hour. And I'll never forget, they served beer, and I wasn't used to that. And I was like, I took a beer out to this guy and he gave me $1 and I went back behind the counter and I said, that guy gave me $1. I feel weird. She goes, you'll get used to it, honey. Yeah. And so I really enjoyed working at Lumps, but I didn't really love the food quite as much as I did at IHOP because I loved their breakfasts. So I took a cut and pay. I went over there for 65 cents an hour, but I loved the cook and the hostess and all the waitresses. And I was really kind of out of place as a waitress. I remember going over to a table one day saying, may I take your order, please? And they go, you're not a waitress, are you? And I go, no, not really. I'm here to, pursue my career, but it's a great way to learn, great way to make money. It was just a funny thing. So, but, that was a great place for me. It was like a little home away from home. It was a place because I had so many friends there. I could go have breakfast there. I could eat all by myself. And I didn't feel like the lonely girl. But I remember one day I was sitting there in my booth. I remember what I had on. I had on this kind of 40s looking little print red dress with dark red lipstick and dark red fingernails. I was just sitting there eating my eggs and toast. And I look across there and I saw this guy with jet black hair and another guy with kind of salt and pepper hair. And I went, I know those guys have to be in the music business. I don't know who they are, but I know there's somebody. So I got my courage up and I walk over to them. And don't ask me why I said this, Michael. I have no idea. But I walk over and I go, excuse me, but are y'all in the insurance business? And they go, no, darling, we're in the music business. And I slide into that booth and I go, look, that's what I thought. Listen, I'm a singer. I'm trying to get started. I can't believe they didn't kick me out. But they took me in and we had the greatest conversation. And I happened to be sitting there with Roy Orbison and Joe Melson, who, Joe was an amazing writer, wrote a lot of the hits with Roy and for Roy. And then Roy Orbison, oh my gosh, what an icon he was. So I didn't really think I'd see them again, but a couple of weeks later, I was living in this apartment. It cost $87. I think it was 87. I forgot what it was. It wasn't much, but it was very cheap. And anyway, I had just gotten a phone, which I was thrilled about. And I went down to the AFTRA office, which AFTRA is American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. And I walked in and I said, hey, I just wanted to let you know I got a phone. I was giving you they go, we are so glad to see you. And I said, why? And they said, because Joe Melson's been looking for you and he wants you to come and sing on some Roy Orbison recordings. I was like, you are kidding me. So I did. Here's where the $87 comes in. I remember now because I got to sing on 2 songs. And it wasn't a famous song. Basically, they were just kind enough to give me some experience in the studio. And it was like, remember K-Tel used to do those discount records? It was a discount collection
Gotcha.
of his. But they paid me $87.50 per song.
You can't complain about that.
No, I still wouldn't complain about that. Heck, don't tell anybody, but I would do it for free. But still to this day, I had a lawyer one time. We were negotiating a contract and I called my lawyer up and I told him what this record guy had called me up and said to me personally on the phone, like, tell me to make an offer. And I was so naive, at the time, but it was just from my heart. I was like, this guy told me what they were going to offer me, and it was a whole lot of money, a lot. And I was like, but he was complaining about it, what my lawyer wanted. And I said, well, gosh, that is a lot. I would do it for free. And then I called my lawyer and I said, man, that guy from the record label called me up personally. And I told him about the conversation. He goes, Deborah, don't ever talk to a record label executive again. So I learned my lesson.
Yeah, I would think it wouldn't take long.
No, it doesn't take long. But you know what? Ray Charles taught me a really good lesson on a plane. I happened to sit down one day by Ray Charles on the airplane. Well, we don't only have 30 minutes, so I can't tell you the whole story. Let's say I wound up sitting by Ray Charles. By the time I sat by him, he was asleep. And I remember I was just sitting there beside him in my mind saying to myself, wake up, because I wanted to visit with him. So
I would think.
About that time, his Braille thing dropped off in the floor and he bent down to pick it up. When he bent down to pick it up, I bent down too. And I said, hey, and he goes, well, hey, mama, like that. And so we hit it off. And I made up my mind that day. I said, I'm not going to talk about songs. I'm not going to talk about anything but just being his friend, because I don't want him to think that, that that's all I care about.
Right.
But the conversation progressed. And finally, he just kept on asking me, well, what are you doing? Why are you going out to LA? And I thought, well, I guess I will tell him. I'm on my way out to record, to write and record a song with Mike Post, he's an amazing composer. He did the Rockford Files and all that. And I said, I'm going to be in a movie and my song. We're going to try to write the soundtrack. And he goes, oh, tell Mike Post I said hello. Yeah, we're really good friends. So we got to talking, and I said also he's going to introduce me to some record executives out there to try to get me a deal. And Ray Charles says,
oh, we lost you.
am I back?
Now you're back.
Okay, sorry about that. I said, apologize about that. That was my mother calling me. Actually, I have an appointment with her in a little while, and she's probably anxious for me to get there, but that's okay. She knows I'll be there. But anyway, when he started talking about the record deal, he said, he goes, well, let me tell you something. He goes, ask for a lot of money. He goes, because the more they spend on you, the harder they'll work to get it back. And I went, okay. So, I mean, it's like I've just gotten advice from everywhere, what a wonderful chance encounter to sit with another icon, Ray Charles. He was such a wonderful person. I did sing one song to him that day, but it wasn't one of mine because my girlfriend was coming to pick me up at the airport. Jay Patton and Lane Langston were going to come pick me up at the airport, and she had this song called Friday Night Blues, and she loved Ray Charles. So I was like, Ray, I've got a lot of songs of mine that I could sing you, but my girlfriend is coming to pick me up at the airport. When she sees you and I walking off the airplane together, she's going to faint. I said, but I'm going to sing you a song that I love that she wrote. So I whisper sang it in his ear, and he loved it. So, and surely when Jay and Lane saw me coming off that airplane with Ray Charles, I thought I was going to have to scrape their jaw up off the floor.
I would think, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Now, that was after you had wound up touring Russia with Tennessee Ernie Ford, correct?
Yeah, that was after that, because right after I met, Roy Orbison and had that studio experience and all that, I eventually auditioned for Opryland, which I got the job out there as a singer and dancer, and did the first season with them. And then I was chosen as one of 12 people to tour Russia with Tennessee Ernie Ford, which was a phenomenal experience. We went to 6 different countries within Russia. Got to know Tennessee Ernie Ford really well, and what a wonderful person he was, And when I returned to Nashville after that, I was kind of at a crossroads. I loved Opryland. I loved being able to perform in front of so many people, but I was really afraid. I was making more money than I'd ever made before just singing, but something in the back of my head said, don't get too comfortable, and I was afraid that I would, but I went ahead and auditioned for the second year. I got hired to be in the rock show, which was fun, but I really wanted to be in the jazz show, and they didn't hire me for that. They hired me for the rock show, but I don't know. It just kind of lost its charm because I loved the country show, and I love rock and roll, believe me, because I'm from Memphis, but something about it just lost its charm. So I left Opryland, and when I left Opryland, I know, Jim Stafford showed up to do Jim Stafford and Sandy Dumas. They did some sort of a Christmas special. And that's where I met Jim Stafford. And he saw me and said, hey, I've got a new television show. I'd love for you to come out to California. It's going to be on ABC. It's a summer replacement show. That's how it was. So that's how I wound up in LA and, flying back and forth from Nashville to LA. And that's how I wound up meeting Ray Charles.
That's just amazing. Now,
I've always been an adventurer. I mean, I think that that's part of what's made my journey a little bit different and kept it exciting. I just feel like when opportunities present themselves to grow or go, I was and am always ready.
there you go. Well, it was about that time after Jim Stafford's show
Yes,
that, if I remember right, you saying that that's about time that you and Shel Silverstein crossed paths.
we did.
Tell us about that. That's because he is such was such an interesting guy and just unbelievably talented.
He was, and he was a huge influence on my life. I'm not really sure of the order of everything, how it happened. A lot of stuff kind of all happened at one time. But I do remember that I had gotten a job singing at the Spence Manor, which is a hotel down at the top of Music Row. And they had happy hour. So I was singing the happy hour. And also, I was hanging out a lot over at Waylon Jennings' office. One of my best friends was the secretary there. Her name was Marie Barrett. And also John Hartford used to come by all the time. And eventually John and Marie fell in love and got married. When they first met, Marie didn't even like to travel. She wouldn't go anywhere. But when she fell in love with John, she was on that bus going everywhere. She just loved him. Their love was a beautiful thing. And the Glazer brothers were there. I loved them. And Kyle Lenning got his start as an engineer there, who went on to work with Randy Travis.
Right.
We were all blossoming there. Billy Ray Reynolds. But Shell would drop in every once in a while from Chicago, and of course he wrote cover of a Rolling Stone, Boy Named Sue, Big Brass Band. Also such an incredible artist also. But I was just getting to know him, but I knew he was so creative. So I said, hey, I'm singing at the Spence Manor. I would love it if you would just come by and hear me sing and give me some advice. He said, okay. He kind of had this real scraggly voice. I can't explain. He looked like a pirate. He had this real scraggly voice. So he showed up and I did my set. And afterwards I go, well, what do you think? And he goes, well, I think you got a great voice. And I was like, oh boy, getting ready to get discovered here. And then he goes, but there's a lot of great singers out here in Nashville. And I went, oops. My heart deflated a little. I thought he's going to tell me to keep my day job. And but he went on to say, he said, you know how good you feel up there on that stage? And I said, yeah. He goes, that feeling goes away, doesn't it? And I was like, I don't know where he's going with this, but he does have a point there. And he goes, have you ever thought about writing songs? And I said, not really. I mean, I have written poems in school, but I've never thought about writing songs. He goes, I think you ought to think about writing songs. He goes, you could create your own style. He goes, and a song is something nobody can take away from you. And he goes, the sun doesn't shine on the same dog's back every day. And he goes, besides, it'll keep you from going crazy. Well, he's got a point about the sun not shining on, and it's true, Michael. It's like, I have been very blessed to have hit records. It's been a wonderful thing. But it's been my songwriting that sustained me. I mean, I just so thankfully and beautifully was awarded some incredible awards, one by the governor of Tennessee and one by the mayor of Memphis, about my 40-year career in music. And a lot of that I give credit to my songwriting because, I've had hits in different decades, but it's the songwriting that's been the thread that's gone through it all this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we started to touch on a little bit, but Baby I Lied is the song that really broke you big.
Mm-hmm.
And not all that was a multi-format, one of the first songs really that crossed over country, pop, and AC.
Yes.
Tell us the story behind that song.
Well, I came to Nashville with my dreams, and and that's what I came here with, and every little piece of the puzzle started to fit together, including what I just told you about Shell encouraging me to write songs. And but the real thing was I just love to sing. I used to walk through my neighborhood and just sing, and I'd sing these lonesome songs. I'd get so sad walking to my girlfriend's house. I just loved to sing. That's all I really wanted to do. But then I got introduced to songwriting. And let me see, what was our question? I want to make sure I get back to your point here.
Oh, no, we're just talking about Baby I Lied.
Baby I
And
Lied.
all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So I had been being pitched a lot of songs by other writers, but I was not anybody in particular at that time. As a songwriter, you want to get the biggest people you can to record your songs, and nobody knew who I was that much. And I had those Jim Reeves records, so that was good. That had kind of helped me lift me up a little bit, but I still wanted that one big one, for myself and to kick things off. So I was writing fervently all the time and looking for songs all the time, but I wasn't really getting the A songs from the other writers. So I figured it out. I was going to have to create something for myself. And so at that time, I was writing a lot with Ray Fenhoy. We were huge partners and very close. And so I said, man, we need to bring in somebody that's been really writing some huge hits. Of course, Rafe was a great writer too. And I think I'd had my number one song too, my first one with Janie Fricke, Don't Worry About Me, Baby, and a couple of others, but still looking for that breakthrough for me. So we got Rory Burke to come over. And so I remember it was like me sitting here, Rafe sitting there, Rory was sitting over here. And Rafe and I had been writing a lot together. Rory was kind of new into the thing with us, and he was being super polite, and so we were kind of batting ideas around. All of a sudden, I hear Rory say, "I'm gonna throw out an idea. You may not like it or anything, but don't worry, it won't hurt my feelings if you don't like it." So I look over at him, and I don't even remember what he said. I have no recollection of what his idea was. But I went, mm-hmm. Then I'll look back over here to kind of connect back with Rafe. And then all of a sudden I hear this little voice over here go, wait a minute. Did I say I wouldn't be hurt? I lied. And I went, oh my gosh, Rory, that's it. Did I say I wouldn't be hurt if our love just didn't work? Baby, I lied. I mean, and it started just happening just like that. Came together so well. So we went and recorded it. I think we demoed that in downtown Franklin at the Bennett House. Went out to LA and met with Charlie Colello because that's what my record label. At that time, I had gotten signed to Capitol Records. And Lynn Schultz suggested that I go to California and work with Charlie Colello, which I was thrilled about. And Charlie, boy, what a monster producer he is. He did Laura Nero. I mean, I can't even remember his backstory. If you want to look it up, Charlie Colello, what a great producer. But he's Italian. So we were picking songs. And when he heard Baby I Lied, he goes, I like this one. It's really good. But it needs a bridge. I go, really? He goes, yeah, it needs a bridge. And I said, okay. And he goes, and it needs to modulate. So we're like, okay, so we go back to Nashville, write this bridge. But I don't know if you've ever been in a recording studio when this has happened, but in Nashville, when a song modulates, the musicians have heard everything. And when they hear a modulation, the whole group of musicians will usually stand up and start going like it's a modulation, and they'll applaud. So we were trying to be real clever and come up with a modulation that you felt, but you couldn't hear, you couldn't tell, so we did a whole step modulation. And I wanted something that was going to be very dynamic. So I was like, and now that I can see, and baby, I wanted to show off as much as I could because I wanted something that was going to break through. Well, so we go back out to LA, show Charlie this thing. And after it was over, we go, isn't that cool? You can't even hear the modulation. You just feel it. And he goes, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to feel it. I want to hear it. No, we got to make this a half step modulation. We're like, really? He said, yeah. Well, you know what, Charlie, that was his genius. His genius was arranging. So he took our modulation And instead of it being a whole step, he made it that half step that it's an unmistakable modulation. Probably every musician in every studio stands up and applauds at it because you can't miss it. And, just a lot of great ingredients went into making that song, my signature song. And I'm so thankful because, I know there's a couple people out there that have signature songs that they go, well, I got to sing that again. But every time I sing Baby I Lied, I still get a thrill because it's just there's so much history behind it and it's so much fun to sing. It keeps you on your toes.
Absolutely. Now, you had a record that came out 4 years after Baby I Lied that featured telepathy.
Yeah.
How did that project come about? Because that is obviously, a big step from the Jim Reeves duets that you had done.
Yes.
Now all of a sudden you're working with Prince. How did you end up meeting Prince, and how did that whole thing come about?
Yeah, and okay, so I had out the Cheat the Night album. My second album after that was called Let Me Be the First, and it was actually the first totally digital record to ever be recorded and released from Nashville. And we're real proud of that. But that album we got, each song was approved by my great friend Joe Galante. And at some point, I guess they made the decision, since Baby I Lied was such a pop record that crossed into the country field and onto the AC charts, they decided to formally put me on the pop charts. So, I mean, pop roster at RCA. So I was trying my best to rise to the occasion, And Let Me Be the First really made its mark because it was the first totally digital record to ever be recorded and released from Nashville, right down the street from here at the Castle Recording Studio. And then my next record came out, but guess what? This was the second time this happened to me. We had another executive changeover. So my hero, Paul Atkinson, he was no longer there. He had been switched to another label, and then Don Grierson came in, and so they took a listen to what I was doing. I was recording out at Sunset Sound, and they were like, the big executives came in, and they were like, "Well, we think that we can do something with this, but we think we need a couple more from you." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, okay." So I go back to Nashville, and I had a chance encounter with Prince because he was in the same complex. Sunset Sound is built around this basketball court. I was in over this studio over here. Prince was over here in this other studio, but I never really invaded his territory because I didn't want him to think I was, intruding on his creativity. But one night I went to the bathroom, which was just past the basketball court, and happened to see a ball running by, and I turned around. I thought it was going to be one of my friends, but it was Prince. So we had this chance encounter, and we spoke a couple of times. And once those record execs came in to check out my music and see if I was going to get to be on the label still, I got back to Nashville, and I just prayed about it. I was sitting in my kitchen. I said, "God, please tell me, what should I do? What can I do?" And all of a sudden, I just said, in my mind, I saw it, I heard it, I felt it, said, "Well, you just met one of the geniuses of our time, Prince." So right then, I got out a piece of paper. I wrote him a letter, said, "Dear Prince, my name is Deborah Allen. We briefly met at Sunset Sound. We have just had an executive changeover at the label. I would be so honored. It would be merely wonderful if we could work together, write something or produce something together. Here is a cassette to let you know how long ago it was. Here is a cassette of my work that I've done so far to give you an idea of what I'm doing. Hope to hear from you soon. Love and happiness always, Deborah." I mean, and of course I overnighted it to the studio because I knew he was still at the studio. So that was my only hope of getting it to him. I sent it to his engineer, Coke Johnson, and Coke gave it to him. And then, I mean, a few days later, I got a call from Coke, and he goes, "Hey, Deborah." He goes, got that package from you and gave it to Prince, and he's written a song for you. He wants to produce it on you." I went, "What?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Is that a song that he had already written, or did he really write it for me?" He goes, "Oh no." He goes, "I saw it. I saw him write it. He wrote it for you." And you know what? I believe it because upstairs at my house, I have it framed. He wrote that song on the back of the tracking sheets from Sunset Sound. I was
Wow.
so honored. And, just people sometimes think too hard about things. Like I told the label about it, and they were like, "Well, he's going to charge way too much money. I don't know if we can do this." And I said, "Well, I said, Prince just made like $70 million or however much, $60 million of Purple Rain. However much he made, it was a lot more than I'd ever made." I said, "I don't really think he's doing this for the money. I think he just wants to do it." They go, "Well, ask him how much he's going to charge." And so I got back with Coke and I said, "Well, the label wants to know how much this is going to cost." And you know what? I mean, in the real world of music, and especially dealing with an icon like Prince, it was just like not much at all. It was like $10,000. He played
Wow.
all the instruments. He wrote the song. He played all the instruments. And then after a while, we got to know each other. And he goes, "Who's going to do the mix?" And it's kind of a long song. So I said, "Well, I kind of think they think this is the dance mix." And he goes, "Oh, no, 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 no." So he did a dance mix too, just threw it
Wow.
in.
That's very cool.
Yeah, he
Very
was
cool.
very, very cool. I could talk to you for a long time about him. A magical night on the night of Sheila E.'s birthday party and going to Club Vertigo and all kinds of fun stuff. But I'll save that for my book.
There you go. And speaking of time, we're actually at our 30 minutes.
Are we really?
Yeah, I mean, it's surprisingly enough. Well, when you're talking about music, time goes pretty fast.
It does. It
So,
does. It
but before we go, I definitely wanted you had a few things going. I definitely wanted to talk to you about.
okay.
You have got a charity that you're working with.
Yes.
Please tell everybody about that.
I do. Let me show this to you right here. This is a vinyl record. Oh, let me see how can I hold it where you'll see it? Oh, it's this way. Um, This is called Love Lives On, and I'm very proud of this project. My good friend Frank Myers called and invited me to be a part of it. It's called TAPS, Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, and it is a beautiful, beautiful foundation. And what it is they work with the surviving members of fallen heroes, and they do wonderful work in helping people to recover from such a big loss and get injected back into not society, but to become a part of life again because they're grieving so much. It's a shock. But my fallen hero on the album was named Preston. And um, once again, God just, to me, our creativity is all attached to our creator, God. And, he's sent me a lot of magic. And the night before I went in the studio, I just said, "Hey, God, please help me because this is special. I'm going to be meeting Preston's mother, sister, and brother, and I'm going to be writing with one of the world's greatest songwriters, Greg Barnhill. Please give me something." And he did. He gave me a title called Press on Preston and a lot of words to go with it. So we had a good foundation to start with, and together we all wrote this song, Press on Preston. Of course, Frank Myers and Jimmy Nichols wrote this with Bonnie, her husband, who passed away, and every story is unique. It's a story. It's an album of 10 stories written about fallen soldiers who've given their lives for us, so we can have the freedom to continue to enjoy ourselves. So go to one place you can go to is taps.org, and I think you can also go to loveliveson.com. But taps.org for sure can put you in that place. And they have a lot of different beautiful things you can buy. And I think, for people who love to collect vinyl, this is definitely a collector's item. And then they've got CDs you can pop in your car and listen to. And I just proud of that. It's finally at this point, there's a lot. I love being on the radio, don't get me wrong. But to me, there's a lot of other rewards and things that you can be grateful for too, and that is the fact that they even thought that I was worthy to bring into such a project as this. So that's a great reward for me. Oh, and the other darn, hang on one second. I thought I was organized. Okay, here, just so you can
We
see.
all think we're organized.
Yeah, look, this is a picture of Preston. This is Preston. This is our
Wonderful.
guy. He went all the way over and served our country and came back and went out one night just with some friends, and a fight broke out somehow and a bullet ricocheted and hit him. But the good thing about Preston, he really is pressing on because his heart is in a 70-year-old man right now. So he's pressing on. So that's Preston. And then we just recently did a second edition on this. This is my Dead in the Raw album. It's an unplugged album. It's got some songs on it you may recognize and some that you may never have heard of, but it's all unplugged. That's a second edition. And of course, being from Memphis, I'm real proud of a song I wrote called Amazing Graceland, which is on my Deborah Allen Hear Me Now album, which you can get at deborahAllen.com. And you spell my name, as you can see, DeborahAllen.com. Love for you to come there. Oh, and while you're at it, sign up to be a front row friend, because then you will receive my free monthly newsletter, which we have just started up. So that is a really neat thing. I do have some great things coming up, and I want you all to know about it. And speaking of things coming up, Christmas is around the corner, and I got my Christmas album, which I love too, because I love Christmas. I love to do Christmas shows. And that's about all I've got to shamelessly promote.
Well, the good thing is we got it all in, and we've been putting your website across the bottom of the screen for
Good.
throughout the show. So everybody, please do go. You've got such a wonderful catalog. We didn't even get into all the songs that you've written with and all the legendary songwriters that you've written with and all that. So
I would love to do it again sometime. You're so much fun to talk to.
Oh, well, thank you very much. So the door's always open.
Thank you. Hey, that was a great song. I didn't write it, but it's a great song.
So, all right. Well, tell you what, everybody, we're going to wrap this episode up. As you heard, hopefully Deborah will be able to join us again. Until then, go to DeborahAllen.com. You can see this video on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel, and also at musicnight.net. We will also link to some of the songs that we talked about in the show on our Music Night .net website, so that you can, if you're not familiar with the songs, you can hear them and hear just how great they are. So with that, Deborah, thank you very much. Everybody, have a good night.
Thank you, Michael.
This has been Music Night at the Majestic with Michael Boswell. If you enjoyed this edition of Music Night at the Majestic, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and at musicnight.net. Music Night at the Majestic is a copyright production of Starliner Media. Any use of the accounts and descriptions of this program, its audio or visual content, without the express written consent of Starliner Media is prohibited. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time for Music Night at the Majestic. This is your announcer speaking. Starliner Media.